Somewhere in the heart of New England, hidden beneath dense canopies of ancient trees, there lies a small town called Ashwood Grove. Cloaked in mist and mystery, this town is home to legends that locals dare not whisper too loudly, fearful they might invite something unwelcome. The story of Ashwood Grove wasn't written in books or newspapers, it was only ever told as a warning to stay far, far away. The story began when two sisters, Emily and Laura Thatcher, decided to spend a month in the old Thatcher family manor on the outskirts of Ashwood Grove. They had inherited the property after the recent passing of their grandmother, Elizabeth, who had spent her entire life in the house. Despite its eerie isolation, the sisters wanted to clear it out and decide whether to sell it. Neither of them had known Elizabeth well, yet they felt drawn to the house, compelled by an inexplicable urge to uncover their family's past. It was autumn, and as they drove up the winding path to the house, a thick fog rolled over the hills, shrouding the road. Shadows twisted in the mist, and strange noises seemed to echo from the woods. Laura, the younger sister, shivered as they neared the house. "Are you sure we should be doing this?" she asked, peering at the towering, decrepit mansion that loomed before them. Emily smiled, her confidence unwavering. "It's just an old house, Laura. Besides, it's ours now. We can't just leave it here to rot." The sisters stepped out of the car, staring at the manor. The house had once been grand but was now weathered and gray, its windows dark and hollow. Ivy clung to the walls, twisting up the stone like veins, and the front door creaked ominously as they opened it. The stale, musty air hit them immediately, and a strange chill settled around them. They spent the day unpacking and cleaning, exploring the dusty rooms filled with outdated furniture and family heirlooms. Yet, as night fell, the house seemed to come alive. Every shadow deepened, every sound echoed longer than it should have. The wind outside picked up, howling like a distant wail, and strange creaks reverberated through the walls. That first night, as they were getting ready for bed, Laura noticed something strange, a dusty old mirror leaning against the wall of the guest bedroom. She couldn't remember seeing it there earlier. "Hey, Emily," she called, her voice shaking slightly. "Did you put this mirror here?" Emily came to the doorway, frowning at the mirror. "No. I didn't. It's probably been here forever." "Why?" "I don't know. Something about it feels wrong." Emily shrugged, brushing off Laura's unease. "It's just a mirror. Come on, let's get some sleep." That night, Laura had her first nightmare. She dreamed of the mirror, but in her dream, it wasn't just a mirror, it was a doorway. Dark, twisted figures writhed behind the glass, pressing their faces against it, their eyes hollow and hungry. One by one, they reached out their hands, clawing at the glass as if trying to escape. She awoke with a start, her heart racing, her skin drenched in cold sweat. She sat up, panting, and glanced around the room, half expecting to see the figures from her dream staring back at her. But the room was empty. Just the mirror, its dark glass reflecting her pale face. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen around the house. Objects disappeared, only to reappear in different rooms. Cold spots appeared in random places, and both sisters heard strange whispers echoing through the halls, though they could never make out the words. One afternoon, as they were cleaning out the attic, Laura found an old journal bound in cracked, weathered leather. She opened it carefully, flipping through its brittle pages. It was filled with scrawled handwriting, notes written by Elizabeth herself. One entry caught her eye. It was dated October 1954. "I've seen it again in the mirror. The shadow with no face. It watches me as I sleep, standing in the corner of the room. I fear it is growing closer each night." Laura's hands trembled as she read further. Elizabeth had written about nightmares and shadows, of seeing things in the mirror that she could not explain. She wrote of feeling like something was waiting, watching her from the other side. "Emily," Laura said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think I think Grandma was afraid of something in this house. Emily brushed it off, though her own unease was starting to show. Laura, Grandma was old. She probably just imagined things. She was alone out here for so long. But the nightmares only grew worse. Each night, Laura would dream of the mirror, of the shadowy figures pressing against the glass. They would claw and scratch, their voices muffled but desperate, like something trapped. Each morning, she would wake up feeling weaker, as if something was draining her energy. Then one night, Laura awoke with a start to find herself staring at the mirror. But this time, she wasn't dreaming. A dark figure stood in the reflection, half hidden in shadows, its head cocked at an unnatural angle as it watched her. Its eyes were hollow voids, and its mouth hung open in a silent scream. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. The figure moved closer, its long, skeletal fingers reaching out of the mirror, inching toward her. Just as its hand grazed her skin, Laura managed to tear her gaze away and scrambled out of bed, running from the room. She burst into Emily's room, sobbing, her body shaking uncontrollably. "Emily, please. There's something in the mirror, it tried to grab me." Emily's face paled, but she tried to calm her sister. "Laura, you're exhausted. These nightmares, they're just getting to you. Maybe we should leave for a few days, clear our heads." The following day, they packed their bags, ready to leave. But as they were locking the front door, Laura's eye caught a glint of light from the mirror in the guest room, now visible from the hallway. It had moved. The mirror now stood directly in front of the door, as if daring them to leave. Emily noticed it too, her hand trembling as she clutched the doorknob. "We didn't put it there, did we?" Laura shook her head, terror filling her. "We have to go. Now." But as they turned to leave, the door slammed shut, locking them inside. A sudden, deafening silence fell over the house. The air grew thick and heavy, and a chill settled over them. And then, slowly, the whispers returned, louder this time, echoing through the walls, through the floor, through the very air they breathed. Laura clung to Emily, her voice barely a whisper. "We're not alone, Emily. Something is here with us." The whispering grew louder, overlapping voices that seemed to come from every corner of the room. Shadows twisted and moved, crawling across the walls, their shapes contorted and unnatural. The sisters backed away from the mirror, but it was as if it followed them. Its reflection twisted and warped, and then, slowly, the glass began to ripple, as though it were made of water. Faces appeared in the mirror, dozens of them, gaunt and hollow-eyed, their expressions twisted in agony. Emily screamed as one of the figures pressed its hand against the glass, then another, and another, until the mirror was filled with reaching hands, all desperate to escape. Laura's voice trembled. "They're trapped. They're trapped in the mirror." The largest figure, the one with the hollow eyes and skeletal fingers, pressed closer, and the whispers turned to screams. It clawed at the glass, its face inches away from theirs, its mouth opening wider, wider, until it was a black hole. Suddenly, the glass shattered, and the figures poured out, shadows that twisted and writhed, filling the room with darkness. The sisters screamed, scrambling for the door, but the shadows clawed at them, icy fingers wrapping around their wrists, pulling them back toward the mirror. Emily and Laura fought, but the shadows were too strong. Their screams echoed through the empty halls as they were dragged into the mirror, their reflections disappearing into the glass. Days later, the townspeople found the house abandoned. They searched every room, every corner, but there was no sign of the sisters. The only thing they found was an old mirror, covered in a thin layer of dust, its surface cold to the touch. Sometimes, on cold autumn nights, if you stand in front of that mirror, you might see them, two young women, their faces twisted in terror, their hands pressed against the glass, silently begging for release. But once you see them, the shadows begin to notice you. And if you stand there too long, listening to the whispers, you might find yourself drawn closer and closer. Until one day, your reflection doesn't look like you at all.